Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm great, boy. I'm great, great. Good to talk to you. Good to see you. I know we had a little chat with Bull Ramus before we went on started recording. It's always good to hear his voice, and I like associating with fat people, as you can
Yeah,
tell.
hell yeah. Why not? Let's get on in there. And by the way, let's get out and get JR's new book. It's out and getting critical praise everywhere I look. It is available now at jrbook50.com, at jrsbbq.com, at Amazon. You can even rock it on your Kindle. And a little birdie tells me it's going to be on Audible sooner rather than later.
All
What
right,
have you been hearing about the book, Jim?
good stuff, man. It's very encouraging. It's a different format than that Paul O'Brien and I have utilized this time. It was a crazy idea, 50 chapters, and just it's just doing good. I think maybe it's just good timing. Heck, I don't know, Conrad. It just seems to be that people are ready for something new to read, and the audio book is going to be really special. I think it's the best one I've ever done. So, and it's the hardest one I've ever done because I'm trying. It's just hopefully you'll get a copy of it and spend a few minutes just listening to see how you think the production was or things like that. I like the feedback, but it's doing good. Everybody's happy. Everything's shipping. We're shipping 100 books to Ohio this weekend.
Hell yeah. You got that big appearance coming up. If you've been under a rock, let me remind you, the voice of professional wrestling is coming to Hartville, Ohio this Saturday, May 18th. It's right around the corner. He'll have autographs for figures and autographs on your item or 8x10s, or why not pick up a book? And it's all available at primetime12.com. That's where you can get your tickets to meet the voice of wrestling this Saturday, May 18th in Hartville, Ohio. That's primetime12.com. Jim, you're jumping on a plane and making appearances again. You're
Yeah,
hitting the old dusty trail. I'd like to see you getting back out there again.
I'm very excited about it. I am. I've been pumped up all week, and I've never been in Hartsdale before. Is that what it is?
Hartsville.
Hartsville. I know that I'm flying into Toledo. I think no Akron. I'm flying into Akron from Charlotte on Friday. So, and my appearance is on Saturday from 1 to 4. So join us. We'll stay a little later if we have to. We're not going to turn anybody away that's made a trip to be there. Just don't run it too close. So I'm excited about that. It's good. It's we draw from Cleveland and draw from Akron, and it's a big deal. One of the things I'm looking forward to, I was told by the promoter that my leg from Charlotte to Akron, I'll be on the plane with Tori Wilson.
Hey
And
now.
that's really hard to take. Oh, her again. No,
Yeah,
she's
I feel bad for you, but you'll be back on the road this weekend, Hartville, Ohio, May
right.
18th. It's this Saturday. Primetime12.com is where you can get your tickets to go ahead and pre-order. Don't miss your chance to meet the voice of wrestling. I have a feeling this is going to sell out. And it's probably going to sell out for River City Wrestling in just about 3 weeks. It's Saturday, June 8th. You're going to be in St. Augustine, Florida. RiverCityWrestling.com has all your information. And if you're listening to this and you'd like to bring JR to a town near you, it's easy to do so. Book him at Jim Ross at 1168-media. That's Jim Ross at 1168-media.com. And Jim, I feel like we should at least mention that, man, we're just a couple of weeks away from a pretty monster pay-per-view. Double or Nothing is right around the corner. This was the 5-year anniversary, I guess, of the very first AEW pay-per-view, which was Double or Nothing. And as I understand it, you and I are going to be watching that for adfreeshows.com, a match that we both love from that first show. Is it just me, or does it not feel like AEW has been around 5 years now? It's like you blink and here we are at the 5-year anniversary.
Yeah. No, I thought that same thing more than once. It's time flies, man. We're all staying busy. You've got new projects we're trying to develop and go with. Yeah, it's exciting time for me. It's an exciting time because one, I'm healthier, and that's important. It's ultimately important, and I just feel really good about what's going on right now. The book, our cannabis business in Oklahoma's growing exponentially. I think Biden did something, said something. I don't know what it was, but they have a different philosophy now in the White House regarding cannabis,
Oh,
and it's
great.
and it's going to be a good. I really believe this that we make gummies and we make vape pens and all those things, but I believe that it's just got a bright future. It's going to take some time. It's not one of those deals where you're going to turn around and get rich tomorrow, but it's growing. And by the looks of things, it's growing in a good direction consistently. So I'm happy about that. So the cannabis business is really good. Right now, we only have one little store. It's in Tulsa. Uh, but anyway, I'm having fun with that little project. My youngest daughter's ramrod in that deal. And I've invested a serious amount of money in it, and I'm just hoping that somewhere along the way it pays off for her and her sister and Grandpa. That's me. So, but we'll see. I'm pumped. I'm pumped about it, and everything else though is good though, man. I got my wound on my ankle, my tibia, is shrinking, and had an RN come over Monday, and she's been here before, and she said, "I can't believe how much your wound has shrunk." But we changed medicines, and we went through the intravenous process. I wish I'd done that earlier in
Yeah.
hindsight. So it's all good, man. It's we're just going to stay positive in our lives and keep moving forward.
We are going to be moving forward. We're moving forward towards Las Vegas in more than one way. Of course, Double or Nothing right around the corner. Tickets are on sale now at AEWTIX.com, and it is a really big card. Swerve Strickland's going to be defending the AEW title against Christian Cage. Tony Storm will be defending against Serena Deeb. Willow Nightingale's going to be defending her AEW title against Mercedes Moné, which will be her in-ring debut, the former Sasha Banks. Plus, we've got the Elite versus Team AEW in Anarchy in the Arena. But there's some other big news that we should mention about Las Vegas. Before you know it, the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion is happening. It's August 19th to August 21st. It's at the Plaza Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. And as I understand it, they have named an award after you, Jim. And, well, you got a say in the first recipient. And I think you've got some updates for us, right?
Yeah, Shivani and I talked yesterday at length, just catching up and all that stuff. He and I have been friends for 40 years, for God's sakes, and it's a lot more than just about the first clash. I mean, we've developed a friendship over the years. Tony's outstanding. His voice still cuts through the clutter, and I love the guy. He works his ass off. He works as hard as anybody at AEW. So they Cauliflower Alley Club surprised me by saying, "We're going to name our announcer award the Jim Ross Award." Oh, cool! And the thing we need from you is to pick out the first recipient. And I said, "Well, that'd be easy if he's available." Shivani. And Shivani and I were talking yesterday about Bob Caudle. I said, I don't hurt your feelings, but if Bob Caudle wasn't in his 90s, he'd be getting this award. But he's he's still living in the Carolinas, and God Almighty, flying to Vegas at that stage of life. I wouldn't want to do it.
Right.
So, but he certainly deserves it. But Shivani's the first recipient. That's going to be out there in Vegas. Great. The hotel. We'll put that screen, that graphic back up, if you don't mind, sir. Plaza Hotel and Casino in Vegas is the room rate's $45. I was told.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's good. So if you're interested in a affordable trip that you would thoroughly enjoy, it's not based on ceremony, it's based on people and those that have contributed to the business. Shivani and I were talking. We're both lifetime members. That's $500. I've been a lifetime member for quite some time. I didn't ask him how long he'd been a member, but bottom line is that there's nothing. Our business has been run so loosely over the years. You can refer back to things like retirement plans and all this stuff. Well, there's a lot of the boys that, as we know, Conrad, didn't take care of their money.
Right.
And so they get into situations where they need a house payment or a tuition paid or something along those lines. And that's what the Call Alley Club does. They help them. And I think that's just wonderful. So the more I can contribute to the success of the CAC, the better off it'll be. So, and spending a couple of days in Vegas, I'll take some books with me and we'll sell some stuff and see how that rolls. It should be fun, though. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun summer.
It is going to be a fun summer, and we're getting things kicked off for a fun summer over at adfreeshows.com. Just earlier today, we debuted a brand new piece of bonus content I think you'd enjoy at adfreeshows.com. It's a more than 2.5 hour conversation with Chris Ford, who's known to wrestling fans as Devon Storm, or perhaps WCW fans as Crowbar.
Crowbar.
All about his journey, what eventually would lead to becoming that Crowbar character, and all the stops and starts he had in ECW and the WWF. And it's one of the more fascinating conversations we've had. It's a part of a series we call The False Finish. And we've had a bunch of other guests there like Glacier and Muhammad Hassan and Zach Gowen and so many others. But we've got a clip right here of Crowbar from adfreeshows.com.
Oh, cool.
You did have some more appearances in WCW, this time in 1997, including 2 matches where you would team up with A. Starling against the Outsiders on Monday Nitro. How does this opportunity happen for you again? Another shot with WCW, and now you're working with Hall and Nash. Boy, that's a big deal in 1997.
Once I left ECW, I was speaking with Mike Ace, and when we said, I'm doing this, you're doing this. We both have very similar styles. There's not a lot of tag teams on the indies right now. We think maybe we could do something like a modern version of the Rockers or a modern version of the Rock and Roll Express with just more modern moves. We could integrate the moonsault and the Frankensteiners and the dives and all that. So we had been working a lot on the independents. We were working almost every weekend, single, double, triple shots, doing tag matches all over. And then Kevin Sullivan again saw us working at Tony Rumble's, and we had a matchup there, and he liked our look and he liked what we did. And he thought we would be good to work against Hall and Nash. And again, we're back down WCW on Monday Nitro, an incredible opportunity, minds blown. I'm not just there, but I'm there with my best friend in pro wrestling. We're flying down together, we're rooming together, and now we're on Nitro together. So just a great experience, but that came through Kevin Sullivan as well.
We got a great conversation there, and he is one of the nicest guys you would ever meet in pro wrestling. He shares his experience about being bullied and his challenges he had with a stutter. And now he's got a booming, thriving, successful business. That's what the False Finish is all about. Hey, how did you pop off in wrestling and have the chance to live your dream? And what's life been like afterwards? I think you'll dig it. Check it out right now. All that and a whole lot more available at adfreeshows.com. And Jim, one of the other perks is you get to be a part of our live studio audience at adfreeshows.com. And if people tuned in last week, well, they saw that we had a bit of a snafu here right in the middle of our program.
Yeah.
You lost power. There was some construction going on and we had to sort of cut it short.
Right.
But hey, we're live, pal. A friend of mine said that once.
I heard that. I don't know who said it, but it's very, I started to say profane, prophetic, is a better word. Yeah, it was, I'm having all these things are running through my mind, man. All these projects are ongoing. I'm blessed, Conrad. I'm blessed to be healthier than I've been in a long time. And I'll have plenty of energy and we'll have plenty of fun this weekend in Ohio. 10 soldiers and Nixon coming. We're finally on our own. something is something something. Or dead in Ohio. Well, it's going to be alive in Ohio. So we're changing the lyrics. Sorry, Stephen Stills, or whoever wrote it. One of those Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young guys. Great harmonies, by the way. So anyway, everything is coming together, man. I'm excited to get on here next week and give everybody an update on how things went in Ohio. I think we'll be, knock on wood, good news and fun. I'm looking forward to meeting the fans. The greatest market research, Conrad, that we can get is from our audience, without a doubt. It's the best market research because they're the consumer. They're buying this product.
Yes.
And so what are they interested in buying and why? And how do we get more? And how can we make this thing work even better? So it's good shit, man. Good shit.
Check it out. It's going to be happening this weekend, primetime12.com. This Saturday, Hartville, Ohio. JR is coming to you. But now we're talking about going way back to May 17th, 2009 at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. It was a sellout 15 years ago. 14,822 fans. Man, the old Allstate Arena, the Rosemont Horizon, whatever you want to call it. That is a classic, iconic WWE building.
Yeah.
And Stone Cold has said he loved it because of the wooden ceiling. He felt like it made the building even louder. Would you agree with that? Is that one of your favorite WWE buildings as well?
I never thought of the ceiling being wood making a difference, but I can see where it could. That building just has great acoustics. When it's full, like most buildings, but when this building here especially is full, it's just louder than hell.
Yeah.
It's infectious. It's contagious. It's a great scenario, great place to work. So we've had some of my biggest events that I've called happened in that building. That's Austin and Brett had a classic in that building.
Yeah, there's so much history there. WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 13, WrestleMania 22.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big time special building, and it's also the host of Judgment Day 2009, where we're coming off the Backlash pay-per-view, where we saw Edge win the world title from John Cena in a last man standing match. We would also see Legacy, which is Cody Rhodes, very young Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and Randy Orton, beat Batista, Shane McMahon, and the WWE champion Triple H. And the rules were, if any member of Triple H's team was beat in any way, Orton would win the title, which is what happened. What do you think about that? Switching the title in a 6-man like this?
I'm not crazy about it. It seems watered down to me. I don't know why we try to outthink ourselves. A beautifully built rivalry between two guys fighting for that big prize. The big prize being the championship. That's plenty. And don't denigrate or lessen the importance of your title by adding more people to it. What you're telling me is that you don't have confidence in either who the champion is or what the championship strap means. So I'm not a big fan of that.
I also wanted to ask you about your transition that happened in this period, because you're going to go to SmackDown and be working alongside Todd Grisham. Did you ever get comfortable in that spot? I mean, did you think that it felt like at the time they were trying to have Todd do more of the play-by-play and you do color? That's not what I had always heard from you. And it's on SmackDown, and it's just a new dance partner in Todd Grisham. Tell us, what you thought of Todd and trying your hand at color.
Todd's a nice guy. He's got a very productive career ongoing now. Does a lot of MMA around the world. Streaming has been the lifeblood for Todd Grisham. He's a very good guy. I think he's an Alabama guy. I'm not sure. I believe he is.
Roll Tide on that. I love that.
Yeah, but he's a good guy, talented guy, smart, fun to work with. All the things you want, all the boxes that you'd like to check, he does that. So I like Todd. We casually stay in touch, but not as often as we should. And as us old timers get older, we realize that. Look at that OU sticker on my lapel. I should get an award for that.
I'm for it.
Yeah, me too. But Todd's a good guy. He's a talented broadcaster. He's become a really good broadcaster since leaving wrestling. I don't mean that negatively to wrestling. It's just he's got more experience and working for different producers. He's got a different product to call, and he's adjusted and adapted very well. So Todd's a keeper. There's no doubt.
Let's talk a little bit about Buddy Rose. Sadly, he passes away on April 28th here in 2009. And I know he had some absolute classics against the Midnight Rockers, teaming with Doug Summers, really put the Rockers on the map in that bloodbath. And I think a lot of fans remember, the viral meme that has become the blowaway diet, which was some creative, fun nonsense in the WWF. But man, he was a hell of an in-ring performer. What'd you think of Buddy Rose?
Very well. The sad part about Buddy Rose is not enough people got to see him.
Yeah.
In his prime, really good talent. I go back to a lot of comparisons and answering these questions by thinking, well, how would they hold up today? There's not a wrestling company in the country or in the world that wouldn't want to hire Buddy Rose. If you're just looking at work ethic and talent in the ring, skills, storytelling, ring psychology, it's just sad that not enough people got to see his work because Buddy Rose is really good, really good. And, he's like a lot of guys. He had some troubles, self-inflicted wounds to the feet, so to speak. But he was a good hand, really a good hand.
We should also talk about the shareholders meeting that Vince is going to have on May 1st. And this is where he'll reveal, hey, WWE's on television on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, but that means we're missing Wednesday. And he sort of suggests that perhaps maybe that would have been overexposure once upon a time, but because there's so many stations today, that's not the case. And I know that we've talked about this a little bit with Eric Bischoff, and he always felt like the worm started to turn for WCW with the creation of Thunder. He felt like it was too much. You already had your weekend shows like Pro and Worldwide.
Yeah.
But Saturday night was your A show until Nitro comes along, and then Saturday night becomes your B show. But now with Thunder, maybe that was too much. And I wanted to know from your perspective, I mean, that was way back in 98. 11 years later, Vince is saying, hey, 5 days of WWE programming is not too much. Is there a happy medium? What do you think is if you were running a company, would you want to be on 2 nights a week, 1 night a week, 3, 4, 5?
Well, I'd like to know what network we're going to be on, what time we're going to be on. At least something how to answer that question intelligently. I think that 2 primetime broadcasts a week, like WWE is doing now, same for AEW, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I've been really enjoying Collision here lately. That team that writes that are doing a real good job. And I know it's spearheaded by Tony Khan. There's no doubt who's the alpha male is in that company, which is a good thing. You got to run around like a dog chasing its tail to get an answer from a decision maker. You know who the decision maker is. That's how it was when I first went to WWE with Vince. He had his hand in everything: T-shirt designs, ticket prices, on-sale dates, venues, everything, every single thing. And because that's what he wanted, and he liked to be deeply involved. But here's the thing about it: after all those years in wrestling, he was very skilled in those areas. So I think that's just it's been a real good situation for them. But I think 2 nights a week should get it. I'm believing. And maybe you got some ancillary programs, the Rampages of the world and so forth. But I think having a Collision and a Dynamite and a SmackDown and a Raw, that's enough. If you can't tell your stories in those 4 hours that you allot to both those programs in total, then you're not doing something right.
We should be talking a little bit more about Vince's investor call here, because he's basically saying that he's happy that the WWE is doing as well as they are in this tough economy. And he considered the most important barometer of how the company's doing to be live event attendance. And I thought that was fascinating because these days, the thing everybody talks about more than anything else are television rights, television rights, television rights. And as a result, boy, we're all just sort of waiting with bated breath. What was the rating? How many households? How many viewers?
Yeah.
And we're still doing that like it's the Monday Night Wars. But Vince here 15 years ago is saying, no, the most important barometer for our product is live event attendance. I'm curious, where do you land on that? Is live event attendance in 2024 still the most important or valuable piece of information to just judge, hey, where are we at? How are we doing? Are we up? Are we down? That's the metric to look for. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that wholeheartedly, because the people that come to a live event are making a tremendous investment, not only financially, but in their time.
Yes.
And so, I believe that wholeheartedly, that you get a real pulse of your business and where you are, what they like, who's getting over, who isn't, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that's still the way. And then you're going to say, well, there people are running less live events. Well, that's not an issue I can deal with. All I know is that if you can monitor the live event success or failure, then you're going to learn more about your product. And the key thing about learning more about your product is you're learning who the audience at that time perceives as being over. And getting over and being over are major, major elements to the success of any on-road production. I saw, hell, here in Jacksonville, we've had some big concerts here, but it's packs that stadium. I mean, golly, business is good if you got what they want to see.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly what's been in wrestling since I started. If you got what they want to see, then you're on to something.
Let's also mention during this investor call, he was asked about MMA. As a reminder, in 2009, the UFC's business was taking off. It was exploding, bigger than ever. Every single month, they were setting records. And Vince would say straight out, he has no interest in promoting MMA. Quote, it's a sport. It's not what we do. I mention that because we know now UFC and WWE are under the same TKO banner.
Yeah.
Something else that was notable was he was asked about the Hall of Fame. And this has been discussed for a long time, but people wanted to know, is there going to be a physical Hall of Fame like there is in more traditional sports? And Vince joked, quote, the Hall of Fame is housed in my head, actually, somewhere near the medulla oblongata. And I think it's that comment that got superstar Billy Graham to go sell his Hall of Fame ring on eBay for like 11 or 12,000 bucks. I was fascinated by this comment from Vince. It exists in my head. I think we've seen sort of suggestions that perhaps maybe one day Triple H would like to actually build a WWE Hall of Fame. Where do you land on all this? Should there be a physical Hall of Fame? And was Vince breaking some folks' hearts by saying it just exists in my mind?
Well, in a way it did, and it does, or it did anyway, not anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I believe there should be a physical Hall of Fame. At one time, we had many meetings about moving it to Orlando, or putting it in Orlando, to the point where I think there's even some discussion about buying some land and building something. But Orlando's like Branson, Missouri. There's empty buildings at times when some act grows old, or they're not selling tickets anymore, or what have you. So, I actually believe it. I think it's be a great, all that stuff they're buying. We see on TV, the auctions, and where Lita and Mick Foley and Booker T, etc., are going around and buying memorabilia. Famous memorabilia is important, I think, and I think absolutely should be a physical Hall of Fame. How, if it's managed right, and it's not overwhelmingly large where the overhead is going to be ridiculous, I wholeheartedly would say yes.
Let's run through some business numbers just so we can sort of compare then and now a little bit. Television rights fees on this investor call were being discussed as being down. The prior quarter was 27.6 million. This quarter is 24.9 million. The difference being a loss of some international deals. But compare that to the freaking billions that they got from Fox and then again with Netflix. And boy, this is just a whole new ball game for WWE. But it is interesting how we got here because the WWE is still trying to maintain a healthy profit margin, not as much as maybe in years past. The dollar is being devalued a little bit, and they've had to cut some jobs and cut back some expenses and cut some costs. And maybe they're even accidentally contradicting themselves. Linda is going to go on these investor calls and say that business has been spectacular given the state of the economy. But when Vince is asked, he would classify it as fair to poor. And based on those comments, the stock goes from $11.72 down to $11. So it lost percentage wise a pretty decent chunk in a day. Of course, it eventually bounces back to 11.28. None of this matters now. They're over $100. I mean, that stock is rolling as we're recording. And it's pretty phenomenal to see just how quickly this business has grown exponentially. Because I think creatively, most fans would say, boy, '09 to now, they weren't necessarily on their greatest creative run, but they were on their best business run. Well, do you reconcile that to just sharper folks in the office and the business being less domestic, more international, or what would you chalk that up to?
It seems like today's WWE is better managed and better promoted than at any time in their history. So that says a lot because they've had great successes. The IPO netted them 160 million. That was a big deal. So I got them off to a good start. From my point is, so yeah, I think that they got something rolling. I mean, they got a good team. That's what you got to have. That's what Tony Khan is working feverishly to put together. He's hired a lot of people in the front office, a lot of new people. He's hired some people I haven't even met.
Right.
Which is fine. I don't need to meet them. I'm not hiring them. They don't report to me, and I don't report to them. I report to one guy, Tony Khan, just exactly the way I want it. So, because I could get that answer. If I got a question, I get that answer. And I don't bother Tony at TV. There's times we have a pay-per-view that I'm calling parts of that I don't even see him during the day. I'm in my, when they come get me, I'm ready to go out. Let's go do it. And get excited about it and have fun with it. So, but Tony's all I need to, because it's really the job that I do is something I've done the same job for years. I should be able now, if I don't, it's my own fault and I should be turned out to pasture. But I should be able to handle this gig. And I think that we do all right with it. Would I like to work a little bit more egocentrically? Yeah. But I'm not disappointed or displeased with my current role. You know, I'm going to go. I was talking to Shivani yesterday, as I said, and we were talking about the CAC, going to Vegas, and all that stuff. Then we segued into the Vegas pay-per-view, and he said, "What are you going to call? Do you know?" I said, "I don't know till I get there." But I said, Tony, quite frankly, without sounding indifferent or egocentric, it doesn't matter. It's the same basic job. You're just changing the movable parts, but you're going to do the same basic functionality of watching the monitor and describing what you see in an entertaining and informative way. So that job just doesn't change much, man. And that's a good thing about being a veteran. They're not going to do anything in Las Vegas I haven't seen before. And I'm not saying it in a braggadociously. I'm just saying it's not going to happen. I'm going to see it.
Well, I'm hoping to show you something you never seen before. Spring is sprung, and that means spring cleaning, whether that means stocking up on cleaning supplies or swapping out your winter clothes for new spring clothes. Make sure you're using Ibotta and get real cash back with every purchase. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or maybe a fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that really don't amount to much. But with Ibotta, just add your offers in the app, upload your receipt, and you get real cash that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or even gift cards. Join the over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores and places like Lowe's and Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so many more. And right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code GRILLINGJR when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use our code GRILLINGJR. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. And be sure to use our code GRILLINGJR.
Yeah, that's important. That's important, by the way. It's fascinating to me, being an old timer, of how much the applications, how they're being developed for these apps. It's amazing. I mean, you can literally, I don't know what you can't do with somebody's got an app for something.
Yes.
So and this is a good one. These guys, they just got a great concept. Anytime the consumer gets an opportunity to get some money back, ain't a bad deal.
No, I totally agree. Check it out. Download the app. It's the best way to start saving some money for doing what you'd normally be doing. It's Ibotta on the Google Play or Apple App Store. Be sure to use our code GRILLINGJR. Get some free cash right up front. Hey, let's talk about Kurt Angle. This is going to turn ugly. We know that, he's been gone from the company for a bit at this point, but now it's coming out in interviews where, there's a bit of a pissing match, if you will, between the WWE and Kurt Angle. Kurt saying he was fired, WWE, or Kurt saying he quit, WWE saying he was fired. Kurt saying he wanted time off and Vince wouldn't let him have it. WWE saying, no, we actually wanted him to go to rehab and he refused. It just gets ugly and unnecessary, and now it's playing out in public. Were you involved in any of this? I mean, this is one of those unfortunate deals.
Of course I was. Yeah, absolutely. I was there when we hired Kurt. So he and I had a relationship that went back from the very beginning of his WWE run. So yeah, I was all involved in that whole situation. Vince is the kind of guy, he'll lay out the lay of the land, and then he'll pass it to me, and then up to me to finish it off, close it out. Kurt had drug issues, and that's not a secret. All we wanted to do, he was such a valuable, talented talent. All we wanted to do was get him healthy.
Right.
And it's like I watched a little bit this week. I'd seen it before. I didn't realize until I watched it again just how good it was. That 2-part series that those dudes did on Dark Side guys did on Brian Pillman was amazing. That was a hell of a TV show. Two broadcasts. And I'll say this: the boys at Dark Side are doing their work has improved with their experience and putting these shows together really, really well. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing some more work for them soon. Don't have the dates yet or even the topics, but just people that I know and people that they're doing these shows on coming up. So that'll be good. I love this. I love the Dark Side stuff, and they're just getting so much better at what they do, and it's making it fun to watch. The Pillman episode did not end at his funeral. It didn't. There's more to the story. It's like, what's that guy's name? Paul
Harvey.
The rest of the story. So there was a really significant piece of information disseminated and discussed on the rest of the story of the Brian Pillman show. So those guys should be applauded. They're doing a good job of trying to maintain and historical points of pro wrestling, and that they're doing it. They're doing a good job.
Doing a great job. Jason and Evan are absolutely crushing it. And I think we might be getting together with Evan sooner rather than later, talking about who killed WCW over at adfreeshows.com. So check that out if you haven't already. I wanted to mention something that made the news here in the Observer. It's about a meeting that Stephanie McMahon held at a television taping with all the talent before the doors opened. She's telling the crew here, hey, it's time the company made some new stars. We're not going to hold anybody back. We want everyone working as hard as they can to reach for that brass ring. And we're encouraging you to come up with ideas for your character and come up with storylines. And Meltzer would say that that's actually an about face, that a lot of the writers, unless it was a top guy, would see someone who had an idea for a story or their character as being bothersome. This is probably around the same time we started to hear the whole audience of one thing. What do you think of Stephanie giving this rah-rah speech? And could that have worked in this environment, or was that just lip service, do you think?
Well, I applaud her motivation. Really, that meeting should have been held by me because I was in charge of talent. She wasn't. But, she's a McMahon, so she could do whatever she thought was the right thing to do, which I had no problem with that. But I think anytime you can gather your players, unless you overdo it, it's a good thing. Communication is a good thing. More relationships in pro wrestling have crumbled due to poor communication than anything else. Communicate. You got to communicate, and sometimes that doesn't happen. Nobody said that guys that are in decision-making positions that that it's going to be easy, or that ex-wrestlers understand how to, Conrad, how to grease the skids. Most of them are coarse and untrained in this area. Time management's a non-issue. It's just some crazy shit. Wrong people in the wrong jobs, in my opinion. So, but look, she did it from her heart. She did it because she thought it was necessary. He was obviously blessed by the old man. And so, and quite frankly, if you work in that company at that time, that's all you need to hear. This is what Vince wants. Okay. So, you got to figure out, you got to check your hills to die on. All hills are not dieable or dive worthy. So, anyway.
We got some notes about superstar Billy Graham. In this era, he's going to go ahead and get his formal release from WWE, but alongside the release is a document that basically says, hey, we own your name and you can't use that to make any public appearances. And he actually cancels an appearance he had in Boston because he had been marketed as superstar Billy Graham. But he is furious about this before he eventually gets a call that says, hey, that was just a form letter and it wasn't supposed to go to you. It doesn't really apply to you. Everybody didn't have that same experience though. Like Team 3D, the former Dudley boys, are told straight up, no, we own that, because although superstar Billy Graham used superstar Billy Graham before he was with the WWF, so he can still use that as the real life Wayne Coleman, they would contend that Paul Heyman, who owned ECW, came up with the name the Dudley Boys, and they bought ECW, so therefore they own that. Those guys were not the Dudley Boys somewhere else ahead of time. So Bubba becomes Bully, and they become Team 3D. Where did you land on this? I mean, I know that this has been the WWE way for a long, long time. I mean, even way back in like 87, I think Linda McMahon told Bruno, hey, you can't call yourself Living Legend. We own that. You can imagine how that went, according to Dave Meltzer in The Observer. But did you think this was a big deal to keep names like the Dudley Boys? Or is that something that was probably passe at that point?
I think that it could have been easily solved.
Yeah.
I think it was overthought, administered, over managed. It should have been a layup. It should have been a 10-minute meeting. And anything that the stars that you developed, anything that you can do or they can do to make themselves bigger stars, seems to me to be a win. And I would those meetings, if I was charged of those meetings, they'd be very quick meetings. There's no reason to dwell on things that are so simplistic. Don't overthink them.
Do you think Vince liked the idea of quote unquote owning you and your name and your likeness? I mean, it certainly reads that way from the outside, but then we see guys like John Cena come in and just use his real name.
Right.
I know he sort of went back and forth on that. If you were in the big seat, if you were in Vince's seat, would you let people keep their name or no?
Probably would.
Yeah.
Probably would. If it makes them happy, increases their worth, and makes them more productive in their real life, who's it hurting? Who's it hurting? It's not like they're going to go on network television with some program that's going to confuse the marketplace. There's got to be some level of cooperation, obviously. But yeah, I think they should keep their names and help them grow their brand. The more their brand grows, which the roots sink back into the company, I think the better off you are.
Let's talk about some of the other news and notes about maybe a bit of a publicity campaign that's written about in The Observer. Dave would write, WWE officials learned on May 17th, after the Lakers win over the Rockets, that the fourth game of the Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Nuggets was scheduled for May 25th at the Pepsi Center, and that's a live broadcast on ESPN, the same night WWE had booked the building for Raw's live event. It was clearly a screw up by the arena people, and it became apparent the Nuggets were in the playoffs, and it was possible that they could have a game. WWE should have been alerted, but WWE officials claim no such thing happened. So on June 7th, the night of the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, they're trying to figure out what in the world are we going to do. They start looking at backup arenas in New Orleans, and that was where it was originally maybe even discussed, but they thought, hey, that could host a Hornets playoff game. And then nothing happened, so they switched back. But this whole mess of, hey, what if this team makes the playoffs? That's something that doesn't just preempt television, but I think a lot, because I know a lot of AEW fans are going through that right now. Your schedule's all over the place because of the playoffs, and we understand.
Yeah.
But even from booking a building, man, that's tricky, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you're dealing with major league cities that have a basketball team like this time of the year that are in the playoffs. It's just unpredictable. You can't predict who's going to win. They don't tell you who's going to win in advance, by the way. It's for those of you keeping score at home. So it's daunting. But yeah, it's challenging to say the least. I find, and I think about him often, the late Ed Cohen. When Ed Cohen was in charge, you didn't have a lot of these mishaps. He was running the buildings, and he's been with Vince forever. A smart guy, pugnacious, tough, mentally tough. Ed died of bone cancer and suffered, but he was a smart guy and played a major role in the success of the development of WWE, WWF at the time.
You're going to go on TV and basically say the owner of the Nuggets should be arrested for impersonating a good businessman, because he's not a good businessman. A good businessman doesn't book a World Wrestling Federation live televised event on a Monday night, realizing that his team in all likelihood would not make the playoffs. I mean, this is pretty crazy, and it goes public. And I mean, when Coach is on ESPN and having Vince come on and say all of this and just hammer. I mean, I know it's PR and it's an opportunity to get your name out there, but the idea that they gave the WWE this contract without any sort of a clause about the playoffs, and now they're having to move arenas at the last minute when there's already been thousands of tickets sold that you can't even honor now because of the seating arrangements that are going to happen at the new building. Just a major unnecessary mess. Do you remember how this was all resolved behind the scenes? Was there some sort of a cash settlement or something like that? Or is this just, let's go trash them and try to get some positive PR and move on?
I think moving on is the key thing.
Yeah.
Figuring out what venue we're going to use was another thing. There were things that had to be addressed and solved before moving forward, and we all wanted to move forward. We didn't have a lot of time, so you got to put tickets on sale, all this stuff to run a big event. But it was very inconvenient and a cluster, to say the least. And I think we worked our way out of it as best we could.
Let's talk about Judgment Day. The actual show itself starts, of course, with a dark match. Get a pretty fun match here, too. Mickie James and Beth Phoenix are going to hook it up. Mickie gets the win with the DDT. Man, two bona fide WWE Hall of Famers, real trailblazers. They're sort of in this transition period from we're no longer doing bra and panties, but we're not quite yet to the women's revolution that we would enjoy a few years later. But when you think about great women's wrestlers of this era, Mickie James and Beth Phoenix are probably near the top of the list, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And reliable, technically sound. I got a lot of respect for both those ladies. They've both contributed a great deal to our business, along with many other women that blazed a trail. You got to understand, this whole women in the locker room scenario is, something I discussed with Vince. I said, the game's going to change when you want me to hire these athletic tens and they congregate in the at the arena where there's already a shortage as a rule of dressing rooms, and now you got to have separate dressing rooms for the ladies, obviously, of course. But I think that I don't know, Connie. I think that we got lucky on some of those things. Going to work out good. But Beth and Nikki they're major players, and they were a very positive influence with their work ethic and their physicality and their in-ring skills as any two women we had.
Let's also mention the first match here is a big one. Man, I wish we could see this match today, but we got it 15 years ago. Umaga and CM Punk are going to open the pay-per-view. Golly, what a talent Umaga was. I can only imagine how much fun he'd be having as an elder statesman in the bloodline these days.
Yeah.
What a match this was. They go 11 minutes and 52 seconds. Umaga gets the win, and Meltzer would say, this result is hard to fathom other than the company's usual directive of always wanting to make the guy look bad in his hometown. Of course, we're in Chicago, remember. It's been ingrained in the writers that, in particular, when you have a baby face in his hometown, you make him look bad because it's easy to get heat that way. But to me, that's backward thinking, other than the idea that hometown fans will make their guy appear to be a bigger star than they're often slotted to be more often than not. And there seems to be an aversion to allowing that unfair competitive advantage. It was a good idea to open with this match, and the idea that since Punk has the briefcase, he can put people over right now is sound. But for a company that is dying for mainstream acceptance, and here they have a guy who was the grand marshal of the Thanksgiving Day parade in Chicago, and it doesn't get any more acceptable than that, you should throw the local fans a bone. Putting Punk out first got the crowd into the show. Ultimately, he rated the match 3.25 stars. It's the running hip attack and the Samoan spike for the pin. But I thought that this little write-up about saying that the writers have been ingrained to just bury the local guy, the local star in his hometown because it's good heat. I've never really read it written that way. I guess I understand where they're thinking that, but I tend to think I would go the other way. Why not make the guy feel like a bigger star rather than lean into the heat? What would you do?
I would make the people happy,
Yeah.
quite frankly. Having a hero come home and win a hard fought match would be good for both talents. You know, Punk could go over. Umaga was going to get over, in my opinion. You know, Eddie was just I never had any issues with Eddie whatsoever as a talent relations guy. He was very thankful for his opportunity. He was those guys are just amazing athletes. You think about, well, what if Umaga was dropped a few lbs and wanted to go out and play football? He could have done that. He's had great feet. He's quick and athletic, strong, and you never doubt a Samoan's physicality because they got it. And if you don't believe me, folks, go look at some of your schools, especially those schools out west, Utah's and Utah States and other schools in that region, and how much success they have using their island boys because they're just so athletic and tough and durable. You know, Bill Watts told me one time about how to judge the strength of a guy was how wide his wrists are. So if you get somebody who's got wrists that are this wide, and that's not too much of an exaggeration, then you kind of get the drift. Bone density
Yes.
is a key thing, and now the colleges are using it. There's more and more Samoans and guys in that part of the world playing Division I or NFL football. It's not even funny. And when you think about the Palomalus and think guys like that, they're Hall of Famers. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot. Oklahoma had a player named CJ Ayu, AHYOU, and played defensive end. But he's a big, rangy guy, could run, and he had wrists that were about this wide. Strong, great bone density.
Well, let's talk about something else that's strong. Getting rid of that argument that we all have. I mean, most of us have this argument 5 nights a week. Hey, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? What should we have for dinner tonight? Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? What should I cook for dinner tonight? I have that conversation in my household 5 times a day. It is going to be 5 times a week. It's going to be a conversation that I'm dreading, that I don't want to do, that, man, you feel like you're negotiating. I don't have the skills for that. And inevitably, more often than not, we order takeout. It's just an easier option for a lot of our households, and it's never really satisfying, and you always wind up spending too much money. But if you'd rather enjoy a home cooked meal without all the stress of planning ahead, Home Chef makes it really easy and it saves you money. Home Chef provides fresh ingredients and chef designed recipes that are conveniently delivered to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. Whether you prefer classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients and easy instructions, speedy recipes ready in less than 30 minutes, oven-ready kits with pre-chopped ingredients, or just quick microwave meals that assemble in minutes, Home Chef has you and the entire family covered with delicious meals without the hassle. Home Chef has over 30 options a week, and they serve a variety of dietary needs, so you don't have to worry about what to make ahead of time. Not only is it more convenient, it's also more economical too. You see, Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. And by the way, Home Chef even has a delicious kid-friendly menu with 18 new options each week. It is picky eater approved and takes the stress out of dinner time. And right now, for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life. And of course,
Wow.
free shipping.
I'm
on your
in. I'm in,
box.
Connie. I'm in. I'll take that free dessert for life. That's hell.
Go-
That's good. You got my attention, pal.
Go right now to homechef.com/JR. That's homechef.com/JR. 18 free meals and free dessert for life. You heard that right. You know, Jim's excited about it. That's
I am.
home.com/JR. Now, you must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert, of course. But as our pal JR says, it costs nothing to look. They've got something for everybody at homechef.com/JR. Get your free 18 meals and free dessert for life at homechef.com/JR.
Conrad, can you order? I'm assuming that, like a guy like me,
Yep.
living by myself, do I need to get 18 meals? Where am I going to put them? Can you order less than 18?
Oh, absolutely.
See, that's what everybody's not like got a family. Like, you got a wife and your friends, and you got Casio living there. He's going to eat something. I saw something he did online that was funnier than hell.
Dancing around in the portal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
He can't help himself.
He can't. He's a talented guy.
Yeah.
He's a handsome man too.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but with the dog, yeah, he's hooked up. Hank is a good looking boy. And man, I'm telling you, whatever your family situation is and your household situation is, why wouldn't you want some free meals and free dessert for life?
Yeah.
I absolutely love how easy they make this. A lot of the other meal kit delivery services, man, they sort of put you in a box and, hey, this is what we got. But you can do everything here. You want a microwave meal? No problem. You want an oven ready kit where you just slide it in? You're good to go. Maybe you want pre-portioned ingredients and you want to cook with the lady in your life. Boy, that's brownie points. I don't know what you and the lady will cook together for supper, but I have an idea. I could guess dessert. So go right now to homechef.com/JR. And why not claim those 18 free meals and free dessert for life? It's good stuff. Homechef.com/JR.
It's a winner, folks. It's a winner. Great food, great price. Give it a shot and see if you don't agree.
Let's talk about the next match. I mean, we started with a hot one, the hometown hero, CM Punk and Umaga. Umaga goes over. Now we've got Christian and Jack Swagger, two very capable performers. This is for the ECW world title. Meltzer would say maybe a slight disappointment in quality. The crowd's into Christian early, and ultimately Swagger's going to try to use the trunks, get caught by the ref. Christian then pulls Swagger's straps down and has like a reverse Lawler effect, I guess, and uses a rolling reverse cradle holding the trunks for the pin. And it's explained here. The storyline is Christian is just outsmarting his less experienced opponents. 2.5 stars. I mean, Christian's got a singles run here for himself after he's had that little cup of coffee with TNA. He's back in the WWE. He's not the tippy top guy, but he is the ECW world champion. And I would even argue that 15 years later, somehow, some way, Christian's doing his best work right now in 2024. Would you?
Yeah,
agree?
and he's going to headline the damn pay-per-view too with Swerve Strickland. That'll be a nice physical match. That'll have a well-told story. There's no doubt in my mind about that. As Swerve continues to evolve as the AEW champion, he's understanding his role better. I like his physicality. So that match, I think, will be a little bit of a sleeper match in Vegas in a couple of weeks.
I'm looking forward to it. AEW Double or Nothing tickets on sale now. AEWTIX.com, or of course you can get it anywhere you enjoy pay-per-view, including now Triller TV. I know there's some folks who maybe didn't love the interface of Bleacher Report. I can tell you the Triller TV interface is a home run. That's what JR and I use every chance we get. I would recommend you try it as well to enjoy AEW Dynamite or AEW Double or Nothing. If you can't make it to Las Vegas, Triller TV has you covered.
I think I'm a stockholder.
Yeah, I think you are too.
Yeah, so I thought early on that the concept had life.
Yes.
And we're seeing that to be true.
Something else that's true is that 2009 was a bit of a sleeper year for WWE as far as in-ring talent goes. As a reminder, we start a pay-per-view with Umaga CM Punk. That's a barn burner then, now, forever. Then we see Jack Swagger and Christian tear it up. I thought that was a pretty good match. And now here's John Morrison and Shelton Benjamin. Quietly, they're putting together a heck of a little pay-per-view here. This is a fun match and sort of a forgotten match, but they get 3.25 stars here. And Morrison is going to get the win. I know we all know how spectacular of an athlete both of these guys are. And you see the third man in the ring there is Charles Robinson. If you give these guys time, and they had a little bit more than they would on TV here, they go 10 minutes and 8 seconds. Man, they can work a hell of a match and have some spectacles that you probably wouldn't see otherwise. Just naturally gifted athletes. What'd you think of John Morrison and Shelton Benjamin?
I love those two guys. They're just they work hard. They're skilled. They're athletic. They don't take shortcuts. I think Morrison just re-upped with AEW, didn't he? Did he not?
That's great news.
I think he did. I thought I saw that on TV. Anyway, two good kids. Never a problem. Reliable. A key word again, reliability. So I could watch those guys wrestle all day.
I mean, they don't have to have the best story on TV. And I think just it's based on their positioning in the company. Maybe the company didn't have a lot of faith or confidence in their stories or characters, but to give them 10 minutes on the pay-per-view like this, like they're going to be able to go have a great match. And they did. Kind of a forgotten great WWE pay-per-view match here. I've always kind of been shocked, with we always have these conversations, and whenever you and I do a Q&A, you'll get questions like, why didn't so-and-so become a bigger star? And I know that, timing is everything, but in an alternate universe, I really could have seen Shelton Benjamin being one of, if not the tippy top guy for a promotion. Like,
Yeah, I could too.
I hope that, if this Swerve Strickland run continues, wouldn't it be cool to see Shelton and Swerve hook it up on a big show somewhere? That'd be awesome.
It'd be a dandy. It'd be a good, that's good booking. That's a great TV match.
Yes.
Great TV. That's a dynamite or a collision match.
Yes.
Without question. So, but Conrad, I sung the praises of Shelton for a long time. We talked about that all-star cast that we were able to recruit to go to OVW, the Cena, Batista, Lesnar, Orton, and Shelton. Well, there's no mystery who the best athlete of those 4 names or 5 names where it was I mentioned. Sheldon was by far and away the best athlete of that group, and that group had WrestleMania main eventers dotted throughout. So Sheldon had the same issues, Conrad, that John Morrison has had in his career. Getting as good at the verbal aspect of the game as he was physically. I'll never forget that time that Shawn Michaels super kicked Shelton out of midair on a TV match they had. It's nothing short of breathtaking what those guys could do and what they were willing to try to do. Because once you get up in the air and you got your face stuck out there, get somebody hit it. That takes a set of balls. That's one of the best moves I've seen in years with Sheldon and Shawn. 2 amazing athletes. That's where it starts. Sometimes, well, how do you define all this stuff? Well, it starts with athleticism. You can't have 2 left feet.
Right.
You can't be stumbling over each other. And, but that was the issue there, that why either of those guys didn't make it to the very top of the mountain, I believe, I might be wrong, that their verbal skills didn't hold up for them.
The Miz is going to come out and do some of the better mic work of his career, and he's going to be constantly running down John Cena, and he's going to acknowledge Morrison, calling him the Marty Jannetty of the pair. And there's not a big crowd reaction. Maybe it's a little too inside, but it's working for me as a fan at home. And then he starts to get the local crowd into it, because he talks about the Chicago Cubs never winning a World Series. And he points to a Chicago Cub in the front row. And that guy just happens to be a big John Cena fan, of course. And he does the "you can't see me" every time he hits a home run. And Miz says to him, "You can't see a World Series as long as you play for the Cubs." He's challenging him to get in the ring. And he explains that since he's a Cena fan and didn't get in the ring, that means I'm 4-0 against Cena. Listen, if we're trying to get heat on Miz, we're doing a little cheap heat, but it's working. Eventually, Santino Marella comes out. What do you think of these television type moments, but inside of a pay-per-view?
Didn't bother me.
Okay.
No, it didn't bother me. Thought it was fine. You got to get guys exposure in ways that they can be magnified. And I think Miz is a great talker. Miz is a great heel, and he's just getting better and better all the time. I think there was a time when a lot of people, a lot of old timers, especially on the inside of the business, thought that Miz was playing the role of a pro wrestler and didn't really feel it. Well, I don't feel that way. I don't think I ever felt that way totally, but I certainly don't feel that way now because Miz's work is outstanding. So, but he's evolved. He's one of those homegrown guys that's evolved. He's like a Darby Allin or somebody that's homegrown, and you see develop before your eyes. And that's what every company's trying to strive to achieve.
Rey Mysterio is going to be out next. He's going to retain the Intercontinental title and pin Chris Jericho. And Meltzer would say this was the best thing on the show. They get 12 minutes and 37 seconds. What a sleeper of a pay-per-view this is. I mean, Jericho and Mysterio for the IC just smack dab in the middle. The story here is that Jericho is guaranteeing he would not get hit with the 619 and he is going to win the title. And of course, we know that's not the case. Rey retains. But this is a really fun match. And these guys are still wrestling today, which I don't think I would have guessed in 2009 that 15 years later they'd still be doing it. Mysterio is going to win it clean, though. He's going to hit the 619 and the springboard splash, 3 3/4 stars. He thought Meltzer said it was the best thing on the show. And we actually got a comment on YouTube from America Loves Me 2008 that says, "Hey, JR, my question is, do you believe that Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho on that card was the show-stealing match of the night?" I would tend to agree. I mean, there's a lot of good matches on here, a lot of great performers, but this has star power and story and everything.
Yeah, those guys knew each other so well. Their days in Mexico and together, and their days in WCW together, they'd already worked out all the kinks and all the little, okay, you do this, I'll do that stuff. They just went out and had a match, and it happened to be a great match. But it just shows you how talented both those guys are, whatever. I really like that match. It made sense. They connected the dots. They told a good story. All good stuff, man. So yeah, I can't argue that it didn't steal a show. If it didn't, it's in the conversation.
Go out of your way to see that one. They're more than 10 years into their national stardom and still tearing it up here in 2009. Next up for the WWE title is Randy Orton and Batista. And since the start of 09, Orton has essentially been feuding with the entire McMahon family. That led to his match at WrestleMania against Triple H for the world title. And we know Triple H won that one. At Backlash, as we said, it was sort of a 6-man deal. And that's how Randy became the champ. So now it's Batista versus Randy Orton. So in a 6-man, Randy wins the title from Hunter. And now Batista is here to avenge that. So Batista's going to get the win, but by DQ. So Orton retains the title. And there's a pretty nasty cut above Batista's eye that's visible when he comes to the ring. He's got 8 stitches in it. And nobody knows the real story of what happened there. Do you have any insight as to how Dave got that cut?
I don't know. And if I did, I'd tell you. But I could tell you it was a legit cut.
Yeah.
As we can all see. Also shows the mental toughness of Dave Batista. Intense, able to block the pain out, keep moving forward. Dave Batista became one of our biggest stars. And I don't know that he's ever gotten the total recognition of that over the years, but don't underestimate the fact that he was a star. He was a player, and he was homegrown. He was an OVW product, and all that stuff in that little building there in Louisville paid dividends. Probably one of the best investments we made, period, in talent relations was keeping the OVW brand alive and providing a place for these guys to work under talented and educated eyes. So Dave was a player, no doubt about it. But I don't know what happened there. It seemed like I heard. It seems like it didn't seem like it. I can't recall it, Conrad, but I don't think it was like something too exotic, like a workout accident or something like that. It wasn't he got in a bar fight in Syracuse or something. It was no. So I don't know what the exact story was.
You ever hear of anybody getting in a bar fight in Syracuse?
Once or twice. I heard it didn't come out well for everybody involved either.
Yep. I think a few people toted an ass whooping that day. Orton's going to grab the belt here and go to hit Batista. Instead, Batista's going to spear him. Orton's going to slap the ref. He's doing whatever he can to get DQ'd and keep the title. And that brings down Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes. So it's a 3-on-1 beatdown for legacy on Batista. And then all of a sudden, as a surprise, Ric Flair makes the save, chopping everyone in sight. People are surprised to see Flair. So they're not necessarily booing the sort of cheap finish on pay-per-view. They're just excited for the star power. It gets 3 stars. I think that's probably an excellent use of Flair. If hey, we can't do a clean finish. We don't want to do that. It'll derail some of our stories. So we don't want to beat anybody. We don't want to swap the title. So we'll do a DQ. They're going to hate it, but we'll give them something immediately that they're going to smile about. And that just happened to be Nature Boy just chopping everybody. What'd you think of the way this was put together and overcoming this perhaps lull or disappointment in a finish? You bring out the right star, everybody's happy.
Yeah, it seems that way, and that's the key thing you want. You want to make your audience happy, and I still am. I don't know, conflicted over a title match having such a loosely constructed finish. And that's what happens when you get too many cooks in the kitchen. Orton and Cody, Flair. And the list goes on, seemingly. It doesn't, but it seems like that. I just not a big fan of that stuff. I like when the title's on the line, you build it, you develop a rivalry between the two guys, and you turn them loose and let them do their thing. And sometimes we didn't do that. And we were too worried about protecting somebody creatively. And I think that's overstated. Clean finishes are not bad for anybody if they're executed correctly. And there's no reason they shouldn't be executed correctly because it's the same basic formula in every match in this scenario. So I look at it sometimes, and I've said this in front of people back in my WWE days. I think sometimes we're being lazy. Well, we can get it. Let's just throw it out. That was one of Vince's deals. We're just going to throw it out. And to me, that's when you give up your creative mantra, and it just doesn't work for me. I can't figure out why in a business that's fictional, why we can't make sure and have winners and losers, because you can build from a foundation of a winner and a loser more than you can a loose finish. Open-ended finish, to me, it's not even in a conversation. So I'm not a big fan of that, Conrad. I think water's a product down.
We got to mention that the reason this big return for Ric Flair is notable and gets a big surprise reaction is because he had just debuted for Ring of Honor. So it's kind of a cool thing to see him back here in WWE again. And when we talk about Ric Flair, I think a lot of people think about our sponsor today, Blue Chew. Today's episode and JR's Wiener are sponsored by Blue Chew. It's a unique online service that has the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Maybe you'll feel like a kid again when you wake up and everybody's at attention, or maybe it's time for a little afternoon delight or a nightcap. Blue Chew is always there for you. And the process is always simple. You just sign up at bluechew.com. From there, you'll consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And then once you're approved, you'll get your prescription within a few days. These tablets are made in the USA. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. And the best part is it's all online. And I mean all of it. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at bluechew.com. Let's chew it and do it. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, and the promo code is JR to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
As usual, they've been with us since day one, it seems like.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the reasons that we have so many repeat advertisers is that we've selected advertisers, Conrad, whose products work. And as a client of Blue Chew from time to time, it works without a doubt. And sometimes I think having the psychological edge in that world of enhanced sex is as much mental as it is anything else. So I know personally, I feel more confident when I know I got a Blue Chew. I shoot a Blue Chew up, and now we're waiting on kickoff. So it's all good, man. I really, what those guys have done, the business they built, and it's all because they have great customer service and the product works without a doubt. So give it a shot. I can't beat this offer. First month free.
How do you beat it? Come on.
$5 shipping. Are you kidding me? What can
Let's
you do else?
go.
You do. You can't even go to Starbucks for $5.
No. Go try it right now. Use our promo code JR. See what everybody's talking about. I mean, this has been such a staple in the wrestling community. I mean, people this is a regular part of their life. And I think when you try it, you'll see why. Speaking of big shows, how about the next match? It's John Cena versus Big Show. To recap, Backlash during the world title match, Big Show interfered and threw John Cena through a spotlight. And the result was Cena lost the title to Edge. And eventually we would see this match go down here. It's a big one. They get plenty of time, 14 minutes and 57 seconds. Of course, it's Chicago, so we got dueling chants. Let's go Cena, and Cena sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as loud as normal, but still, Show was working over John Cena's ribs, ramming him into the post. Cena's going to counter a chokeslam attempt into a DDT. And they're pushing the idea that I guess we're trying to build for a submission match at Extreme Rules, that it's physically impossible for Cena to put the STF on Show. And I like this idea of a big man versus John Cena, because we know that Cena can actually lift this fellow. I mean, we've seen him hit the FU before.
Yeah. Impressive.
But the match, for whatever reason, doesn't click all that well here. 1.25 stars. What do you make of this? I mean, I know sometimes we like that David versus Goliath style.
Yeah.
This match, was it just too long? Was their chemistry off? Why do you think this match was received better?
Number one, Big Show wasn't over. And number two, they had too much time, in my opinion. So a giant and your top babyface don't need to go 15 minutes.
Right.
14:57 to be exact. They just, again, we forget that Big Show is an attraction, not an every Monday night wrestler. And he's an attraction. Andre, an attraction. And the list goes on and on. I watched the other night the Dark Side story on Bam Bam Bigelow. And he was an attraction. Yes, he could do all the shit that nobody else could do at his size, but he still didn't become a non-attraction. That's what he was. And That's how he should be. That's how he should have been booked. Less is more for those attraction guys. They stay longer. They last longer on the shelf, or than they normally would. Attractions got to be booked specially, and I think that's what Big Show was an attraction that we didn't treat like an attraction, and that eventually was a negative.
We got to talk about our main event. It's odd that John Cena is not the main event, but it's actually the world champion, Edge, and he's going to be defending against Jeff Hardy. As a reminder, back on the May 1st SmackDown, there was a number one contenders match to determine who's going to face Edge at Judgment Day. So we're leaving ourselves all of 2 weeks to build this. And it winds up with Jeff Hardy pinning Chris Jericho, or beating rather, Chris Jericho, Kane, and Rey Mysterio in an elimination match. So there was lots of possible contenders, but Jeff Hardy gets the nod, and they get plenty of time, nearly 20 minutes. And Meltzer would say the crowd seemed tired here. It may have been they were taken out of the show by the prior match not getting over. The two did get the crowd going by the end, but it took a lot of work. Edge is going to go through the announcers table. Hardy's running around the barricades. Edge is getting up and jumping off the table and spearing Hardy off the barricades. It's a huge spot. Hardy's hitting the whisper in the wind for a near fall. They're all over the floors. Hardy is teasing poetry in motion off the ring steps on Edge. And Matt Hardy comes from the stands and clocks Jeff with his cast. Edge is going to throw Jeff into the ring, go for the pin, but Jeff kicks out. Edge goes for the spin, but Jeff ducks, and Edge winds up spearing the turnbuckles. So Jeff climbs to the top. He's acting groggy and dazed and loses his balance. Edge climbs up the ropes, brings him off with the top of the rope DDT, and gets the pin. Always a good match with these two. Never have to worry about that. Heavy on story here with the little cameo from Matt. 3 3/4 stars. What'd you think of this in the main event position?
I thought that rating was good. I thought it was fair. 3 3/4 stars is nothing to sneeze at. That's for damn sure. But these two guys had paid their dues, as we say, probably too much. But they looked at this as a great opportunity. Two guys are primarily known as tag team wrestlers as a result of the TLC matches. So now you split them up a little bit. And you got Edge and Jeff Hardy, who already had a relationship, so to speak, rivalry. They knew how to work with each other. So I thought it was good. I had no issue whatsoever with that match closing the show. There might have been some talent that did, because they're just the entitlement thing. So excuse me. But I thought it was good, man. It was what we needed to do. We needed to get some new blood in the main event slots to see how they were going to do. And I thought both those guys delivered famously.
Edge and Jeff Hardy, man. I mean, just you think about all their great tag team wars and then their singles matches. It feels like just a timeless rivalry, a timeless classic. They more than held their own in the main event position. And a member of adfreeshows.com, who's sitting here with us live today, Denovius Max, says, did Edge have any reservations working with Jeff Hardy, considering all that went down with Lita, Matt, and Edge? I know that was a few years prior. Was there any sort of residual hurt feelings here, or had we moved past all that by this point?
I think we had moved past it, because it was not something that came across my desk. Well, we got a problem. These guys don't want to work together. They looked at this as opportunity. Two young guys who made their mark in tag team wrestling, finally getting a singles opportunity at the close of pay-per-view for the title. You don't need to say much more than that. And they took that as a challenge, and they went out there and had a hell of a match. I thought it was just outstanding. And contrary to Big Show's too much time, I thought these guys could have used a little bit more time if they needed it. But it was good. It was really good. They all those guys like that were looking for opportunities, and we saw that Jeff Hardy was going to be a big star. Audience just gravitated to him for whatever the reason, And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I mean, they loved the guy. He excited them. He gave them something new and fresh. And during that time, I don't know that we had a better heel than Edge. He might have been the best we had, and I'm not gonna. I don't know who it would be, but he was great because he worked at it, he perfected it, and I just, I really had a lot of love for both those guys.
I think a lot of people have felt like Jeff belonged in this top spot for a long time. I mean, we were back in like 2002, I think, when you were, doing that call with him and Undertaker. Go make yourself famous, kid. I mean, here we are nearly 7 years later.
Yeah,
And he won the world title at the end of '08. Now he's in the world title hunt here again with Edge. Edge is probably doing the best work of his career up to this point. Jeff is finally in that spot. I mean, I know that, we heard from Stephanie saying we're trying to make new stars. I would argue that this era really elevated Edge and Jeff Hardy. Wouldn't you agree?
oh yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing: they were given an opportunity, Conrad, with under bright lights, spotlights, if you will, and they delivered. And that's what as a company we needed to see. And they proved without a shadow of a doubt they were both ready for prime time.
Well, I think they were too. I think this is probably Edge's best work, and I think he's probably the best heel in the business in 2009. Let's get to some fan questions. Michael Gavin Ali over on YouTube wants to know, hey, JR, in time, do you think the PG era of WWE during 2009 has hurt WWE viewership in the long run for Raw and SmackDown?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I think that it's all a matter of smart booking and execution by the talent. That's the key thing every time. So the rating, the PG era, the ruthless aggression era, the attitude era, it's all about talents getting over and executing. And for the most part, we were successful in that regard. So, but I don't think it had anything to do with it to any significance. Might not have been somebody's cup of tea. Somebody that wanted a lot of blood and guts might have been felt a little empty at times. I don't know. But if you're solely depending on blood and violence for your ratings, you might be traveling the wrong road. It's a short-term fix. Basic, strong, well-told stories is what you're looking for. And they don't always come with blood and guts.
We got another unrelated question here from our live studio audience, but we've been getting this a lot on social media, so I think we ought to probably just address it. Mr. Epic actually says, do you think with Jerry's contract done, we'll get one last go at it with both of you? Of course, he's talking about the King, Jerry Lawler, who it just became public that his contract was not renewed. He's no longer under contract to WWE. And as I understand it, it was almost like a celebration of his career with a roast and a convention and all of that this past weekend in Evansville. I heard it was a huge success. People were excited to see the King. I was thrilled to see so many photos with him and that same $1 million smile. Do you think, I know that we could probably expect you guys to make some appearances together in the future, but what do you think the likelihood is that you guys will call one last show together sometime?
I don't think it's a dead issue. I think that for me, I'm an AEW guy, so that brings it back to answer your question. It's strictly up to Tony Khan. Having JR and the King call a match or a couple of matches at a big event is not beyond the realm of comprehension. It hasn't been discussed that I'm aware of, but Tony's full of surprises, and there's a certain aura of markability putting JR and the King back together for, I don't think weekly at all, but I think occasionally it could work.
It's going to work next week. You and I are getting the band back together to talk about somebody we both think a lot of. We're talking all things Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, is our topic next week here at grillingjr.com. I know that you were a big part of bringing him in and getting him under contract with the WWE back in 1996. We'll talk about that. all of his WWF run, from the Nation to Sexual Chocolate to his world title run, all the ups and downs, and of course, coming to AEW. You can hear him on a pretty regular basis with Busted Open and see him all the time on AEW programming. And I recently saw, Jim, that his son is going to Oklahoma.
Right.
It's got to be pretty cool. Something else for you guys to bond about.
Yeah, it's a rarity because Mark, he's
a Texas guy,
massive University of Texas fan. So I used to kid that Jacob. I said, "Man, you're going to look good in that crimson and cream." And Mark would give me the old side eye, don't be saying that. Like it could happen. So he got a full ride at OU in wrestling. And he's hard to handle on that mat, man. He's thick and big and strong. Talking about Mark or Jacob. So yeah, we're happy to have him at OU. He'll be living in Norman, so I'm sure I'll see him every now and then. And when I'm out there, I'll make a point of trying to see him. I think it's always good to have somebody that you can connect to. You might want to come out and sit by the pool. We could work on our tans together.
I love it. I can't wait to talk about Mark Henry next week. If you've got a question, we want to hear from you. Drop it on YouTube. It's grillingjr.com. That's your home for all things Voice of Wrestling. That's grillingjr.com. You can also ask us on social media. JR is pretty active there. It's at JR's BBQ. I am at Hey, it's Conrad. Over on Instagram, Jim is at Jim Ross BBQ. And on Facebook, Jim Ross BBQ. Maybe you're seeing a pattern there. How about checking out jrsbbq.com while we're at it? You can catch the new book. Business is about to pick up. They got the all-purpose seasoning. They got the red ass hot sauce. They got Chipotle ketchup. They got main event mustard, 2 types of sauce, something for everybody. And it's all right now at jrsbbq.com.
Man, I made some, opened up a can of sugar-free Bush's beans, and I seasoned it with JR's original barbecue sauce. God dang, man. I was so happy with me. I loved me on that day because I had it's a good thing I'm living by myself because, I replayed that scene from Blazing Saddles. There was some gas being emitted about 10 or 12 hours after that. I'm a bean eater. So, but it was great. It worked. And I think I tapped in a little bit of all-purpose seasoning. So between the all-purpose seasoning and a squirt or 2 of barbecue sauce, stir it up real good, let it simmer. Don't get in any big hurry, and then get back at it. So it was good. There's a lot of ways to enjoy those products. And again, I just this morning, I made a call to Stephen Link in Norman. Our books have arrived, and like I said, I'll be there next week. So I'll be feverishly signing your autographed copy of the book. So get with us. We'd love to have your business, and we'd love to sell you a signed book.
We'd love to help you save some money too over at savewithconrad.com. That's what I'm doing on a pretty regular basis. And don't take my word for it. I know it sounds crazy. Wait, I'm going to call the guy who does wrestling podcasts to do a mortgage. Man, I've been doing it for 23 years and I'd love to help you. We just got a 5-star review last night from Sean P. in Aston, Pennsylvania. He wrote, Diane was readily available and very quick to respond to every email. If she didn't have an answer, she would find out quickly and get back to us. A pleasure to work with. Diane's been on a roll. Earlier this week, she got a 5-star review from Kama here in Alabama, who wrote, Diane was very kind and responsive. The process was smooth, and she helped us navigate through everything quickly. The portal is user-friendly. I could not have had a better experience setting up our new mortgage. But what about this 5-star review from our man Jason? He wrote, this is one of the best decisions I've made in a long time. Not only was I able to save around $1,500 a month, I got to experience the best team in the business. Each interaction with Larry and the team was an absolute great experience. I cannot thank them enough for all they've done for me and my family. And also thanks to Francis for all the laughs and your hard work. If anyone is even considering a mortgage or looking to eliminate debt, this is the place to go. You will not be disappointed. Hey man, I'm a wrestling fan just like you, and I think we pretty much all have the same goals in mind. We'd like to pay our house off, get out of debt, help our kids get through college, retire on time, and maybe take a vacation or two along the way. If any of that sounds good to you, man, I'd love to help you get a plan where you are right now and how to wound up in those spots. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day and say, wow, that kid's going to need a car next year. That's not me. But you had 16 years, man. Come on, let's do a little planning. Let's make a plan to get out of debt. And I want to be your mortgage advisor for life. So if you've got questions about how to improve your credit score, or how to buy a house, or how much you really need down, or what's your ideal monthly payment, I can help you with all of that. And it doesn't cost you anything to pick our brain. There's no application fee, there's no credit report fee. If we can't help you save money, we won't waste your time. So why not call your friend in the mortgage business? That's me at savewithconrad.com, or you can check us out toll free at 888-425-0105, or shoot me an email with your specific example of what you're trying to do at conrad@savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 32416, savewithconrad.com. Jim, I had a lot of fun talking about a pretty forgotten pay-per-view. Judgment Day 2009 is a sleeper show.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed some of the matches on there. I thought Edge and Jeff Hardy was fantastic. I thought Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho was good. Umaga and Punk and Shelton Benjamin and Morrison. A really great sleeper pay-per-view here that maybe folks forgot about. So check out Judgment Day 2009 on Peacock this week. And don't forget, this weekend, it's going to be more AEW than you can handle. Tickets on sale now, AEWTIX.com. And man, you blink and Las Vegas will be here for Double or Nothing. It's always a big fight feel in Las Vegas, isn't it, Jim?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great atmosphere. Can't ask for a better atmosphere. And I think we'll replicate that wholeheartedly on coming up a little bit later on this month. Yeah. Vegas, special town. And it's good for the talent enjoy going there. And there's things to do other than just going to the wrestling matches. So I'm excited about that event. Like I said to Shivani yesterday, when he said, "What are you going to call?" I said, "I don't have a clue. It doesn't matter. I'm just happy to be on the team and be there." So I'll be in Vegas, and we'll call a match or two, and whatever TK says is what I do, and it's easy. A lot less drama and doing it that way. So, and that's the way I like it. Less drama.
I like it too. I think you will as well. Check out primetime12.com. JR's coming to you this weekend, this Saturday, May 18th. He's going to be there from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, but he's going to make sure that nobody's left standing in line and missing their chance to meet JR.
That's
So
right.
get there early, get there often, and pre-order. Go ahead and get your autograph and your photo lined up right now. Primetime12.com, Hartville, Ohio, this Saturday, May 18th. And he's coming to you, St. Augustine, Florida, in June. Stay tuned for more details. Jim, I appreciate all the time. I hope everybody checks out your new book at jrsbbq.com or jrbook50.com. I've really enjoyed the book. I'm seeing nothing but high praise from it online, and I hope it's a smash success for you and Paul O'Brien.
I appreciate it, Connie. Appreciate it very much. Paul worked his ass off on it, as did I. He worked harder than me. He's smarter than I am, so he should work harder. But it's just been really good. Like I said, the audio version will be out soon, and soon, like meaning in the next week or two. And that's what I really encourage people to try out. If you're not a big reader and you don't feel like investing that much time in reading a book, I say that's too bad. Reading's good for us, but what it really works is the audio version of it, audible.com. Those guys do a great job, and I trusted them to come through. And from what I understand from those inside, the insiders, there's groupies that follow. No, I'm kidding. I take myself off the point. But I have a good feeling the audio book is going to do really well, and we'll see. There may be some. Conrad? How does that work? Would I be able to sign if I was going to sign some audio stuff? How does that come? Is it coming like in a disc or what? How's that work?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I mean, Audible is just going to be something you're going to be listening to on your device. So I think if you're looking for a JR autograph at that point, you'd probably want to get it on an action figure or a trading card, which you also have at jrsbbq.com.
Right.
I've told JR this at least 100 times, by the way. He's undervalued his trading cards and his autographs on his action figures. You should see what these things trade for on eBay. You don't have to camp out in an airport to make some money on JR stuff. He'll just sell it to you below what it's actually worth at jrsbbq.com. And that's what he's all about, man. He wants to lead with value. And I think you'll see that all of his products are doing that. My wife, I don't think she's capable of making eggs without the all-purpose seasoning now. It's fantastic. It's a hit every time. You're going to love it on all your protein, your poultries, your steaks, and everything else. jrsbbq.com is your home for all things JR. And I can't wait to pick your brain next week, man, talking about Mark Henry right here on Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
And we'll see you this weekend, Ohio, Hartsville. And is that right, Connie? Hartsville? Is that where I'm going?
Hartsville, yes, sir. May 18th. We've hit it harder than Umaga was hitting CM Punk in the opening Judgment Day.
Yeah, lay it in, brother. Lay it in, brother. So it's good. It's going to be a good weekend. I can't wait to get started and head. It's hard to say it. I can't wait to get to the airport.
Wow.
That's the way it is. You can take the boy off the road. You can't take the road out of the boy. And I just love it, man. I love these type of weeks are going to be great because I'm seeing fans that some of them I've never met. Some of them I've met before. And it's just cool to hear what they got to say because they come up with great questions. Like I said, the best market research that we as marketers can get is from our audience, from the paying customer. And they're going to be surrounding my table, and it's going to work out real well. So, but I appreciate all your support, Conrad. You're the best. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. And we love catching up with you guys every week. Thanks for joining us live from adfreeshows.com. And we'll see you next week right here on Grilling JR.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it. Come back next week and bring a buddy.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.